being in. See, that's what she wanted to do. I knew it was And so, yeah, I've been with the department for 6-7 months, something like that. Take care of illicit discharge, stormwater, levies, emergency response flood stands, things like that.
Okay, so why don't we go on to Brandon, why don't you give us your position and what you're doing?
Yes, hi, Brandon Disney with the City of Lakeport, council member and board member on the Clean Water Program.
Okay. Who's the next one? Who's at this chamber over there in the?
Move on to Angela.
Angela, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do?
Angela DePalma Dow, Lake County Water Resources, Watershed Protection District, invasive species coordinator, but also manage surface water quality programs, which includes stormwater.
And then who's the next to?
We have, I may say the name wrong, but Vishaka Atre.
Yes, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Vishaka Atre. I'm with the EOA and I'm the new contact person for EOA, and I'll be talking about I'll be giving a quick update on the phase 2 permit and the tasks that we have planned for LID, low impact development, later in the agenda. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
And then next is Julia Aspenson.
Hi, I'm Julia. I work for MC Engineering, and our firm and California Rural Water are working on the 319 watershed plan.
And then Kylie Clark.
Hi, I'm a civil engineer. I work for the city engineer for City of Clear Lake. I'm also the City of Clear Lake Stormwater Coordinator.
Angela, did we get everybody to introduce on Zoom? I'm not sure I see everyone or not.
We have 2 members of the public, Danny Wind and Betsy Kahn.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. I am Adeline Leba, the Corps Director for the City of Clear Lake.
My name is Tristan Hayes. I'm the new construction project manager for the City of Clear Lake.
I'm Bethany Moss, the Chief Building Official of the City of Lakeport and the Stormwater Coordinator.
And I'm Joyce Overton. I sit on the city council here in Clear Lake, and I am your chair. Whoops, sorry.
We also have Maria. I'm not sure if Maria introduced herself yet.
I knew there was somebody that I couldn't see who was what. Bruno's kind of watching that because I can't see everybody.
I failed, sorry.
So is there
Maria?
Oh, Mariah's on there, right? No?
So I'm Bruno Sabatier, District 2 Supervisor for the County of Lake. And if Maria doesn't speak up, I think we might just move on.
Okay. So we've got roll call. So you guys got all that for the roll call? And we've introduced everybody, so we're good to go for the minutes to the meetings for February 8th. So there was no minutes for the last meeting? Which I
Yeah,
missed.
sorry, first time in 6 years, we didn't get our minutes down. I apologize.
So any considerations of any items not posted on the agenda? Is there anything we need to add?
I have,
How about you, Angela? Is there anything else we need to add to the agenda?
Just the notes that are there. There's some misnumbering in the agenda for this that went off notice. So just the correction is noted there
Okay.
for reference for the minutes.
Okay, so on the old business, so I guess that's you, Angela.
Acronym cheat sheet, you guys should all have that. It's in every meeting material packet. Again, let me know if you need anything added to that as we go through here. If there's an acronym that we mentioned that's not listed in here, or any description, a term that needs more description, let me know so we can add it.
I thank you so much for doing that too, because you know, that was one of the things I'd requested, and I appreciate that you do that at every meeting because it's hard to keep up with all these acronyms.
And we use it for other meetings too. So it has broader implications that are valuable beyond this committee. So thank you for that, Joyce.
Right. So on with the update and posting to the website, is there any updates on that? Yep.
Oh,
Who's doing the website, Angela?
It's for our support staff at our front desk does that, and whenever the acronym cheat sheet is updated, it'll go there. And then general website updates is just we are monitoring that as needed. If anybody needs anything to the website or if links don't work, just let me know. We can update that.
Okay, so if we have a problem with the website, we just contact you.
Correct.
All right, sounds great. Thank you for that. Okay, so update on the new MPDES permit.
I can give a quick update on that, if that's okay.
That's it?
It's a quick update. The phase 2 permit is still not out yet. So we received an early draft, an informal draft of some provisions back in spring and summer of 2023. And one of the major changes to the permit draft is that the board has added schools and community colleges to the permit. And there's a lot of concern from school districts and the community college facility coalition, and they submitted some concerns and met with the governor's office to discuss their concerns. So the phase 2 permit is with the governor's office right now under consideration. And we don't know, unfortunately, when it will be released. We've been hearing that it's coming for quite some time now, but no real update really. But when it's issued, it'll be a full informal draft first. Then they'll have a full formal public comments draft, which will have a 60-day comment period, and then it'll go to the board for approval. So I feel it's still a few months out till it's actually adopted. But once it comes out, there'll be a 60-day comment period for that.
Is there a due date on that?
The permit's expired for a while, so yeah, it should have been out a few years back, but we just have to wait and see when they actually get around to issuing it.
Okay. All right, so guess there's not a lot we can do with that until that comes back through. So thank you very much for keeping us updated on that. Okay, so we're down to the item C, number 5.
There's a comment on that item. There's a hand from the public. Did we want to entertain that now?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead, Betsy Kahn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Betsy Kahn. I just want to point out that the third phase of the NPDES permit is punitive, which means that any failure to comply with the permit requirements is liable to administrative liability fines. And so it tightens up the requirements and means that we have to actually go through our permit list of 91 questions and make sure that we're fulfilling all those requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.
I got a question.
Okay.
Just a quick question about the program, especially in light of what's been going on in our sewer spills lately. What is being tested specifically that might relate back to sewer spills or potentially giving us some good data on septic infiltration?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Supervisor Sabatier. There's 2 parts. The septic question will actually be addressing with the 319 project, and maybe Julia, we can mention that or show the graphic for that.
Maybe ahead of myself. It's on the agenda for the next item, so apologize for that.
The first part, asking about the municipal sewage lines and water treatment lines that sometimes have spills. So my understanding is that special districts has their own discharge permit because they do all their own reporting on those spills. So even if there's a sewage spill from one of their municipal lines in one of the jurisdictions for MS4, they have their own permit that they respond to on that. It's usually not part of our reporting and under our MS4 jurisdictions. There hasn't been. So they would be the best ones to answer that. If this committee is interested in hearing from special districts on that project, we can entertain having them talk about that at a future meeting if we want more information, because it is relevant to inputs to streams, creeks, and the lake. But the municipal sewage bill is under a different permit, is my understanding, and not part of our discharges for the MS4 clean water program.
And maybe I'm bringing it up on the wrong item, but I know that in the past, we've done some agenda items that were regarding, I'm gonna sound stupid, you guys use big words like pyrethroid, which I still don't quite know exactly what we're talking about. But I know that we're looking at runoff and the quality of that water runoff that goes into the lake. And I don't know that we measure in the lake or if we only measure in the creeks and streams and the stormwater before it gets to the lake. But I'd like to see what the clean water group can do to identify areas that have higher levels of, I guess, effluent, that I'm looking to see signs of effluent seeping into the lake, whether it's direct spills like we've seen near the senior center where it went in Burns Valley Creek, and then eventually we had a boil water, whatever declaration for that area. If you were taking water from the area and you had a private filter system. I'm just trying to figure out how we can use this group to identify the impacts that are happening to the lake. Because if we can identify infiltration, especially if it's from septic, from leftover old infrastructure that we have not updated for quite a long time, that it has an impact on our lake, that will give us the data that we need to start looking at how to resolve that problem. And maybe I'm going too far out on a limb in today's conversation, but just something that I've had in my mind, especially because of all the spills that we've had recently.
Well, that's kind of, is that the 319 grant funding that you were talking about that this probably should fall under, right?
Yeah, that's for septic. So municipal spills are different, and I really think this committee should just ask for like a report on that from, say, special districts, so we can include it in like our planning, because if we're planning to improve stormwater quality around the lake and from our jurisdictions, knowing impacts or what activities are going on for municipal leakage and spills would be important to consider as part of that puzzle piece. And we are trying to address the septic with the 319 plan, at least including it in the plan, so future funds can be allocated. And like I said, Julia can talk on that. And then Andrew Britton from the city of Lakeport, which has their own water treatment system and manages those spills, has mentioned in the chat that sewer spills larger than 50,000 gallons require water quality testing. And that's per the state's wastewater discharge permit. So that's the type of permit where municipal wastewater treatments have to comply with, which is separate from our MS4 permit. And then if the sewer hits water, they should be completing an illicit discharge report also. And that's similar to the illicit discharge reporting that we do for our spills. Is there anything else, Andrew? Did I capture that comment correctly? I think it addresses some of the concern that Supervisor Sabatier had. But I think that what this committee can do is definitely ask for some information about those point source leaks from the countywide wastewater treatment discharge.
And I'd be interested in getting some of those reports from all of the sewer systems, because there's not just special districts, there's Clear Lake Oaks, there's Lakeport, there's special districts. But I know that we talk a lot about the water quality and we talk a lot about MS4, but and yes, data is provided to the state. That's a given with the process that they have to follow. But I feel like that conversation has not perfectly combined at this table during the clean water conversations.
I agree. I think that's something that we've been lacking. So maybe we can ask them for a report on that. I think that's a great idea. So does anybody else have any comments on that? So did you want to go ahead and go on to the 319 grant funding watershed basis? So who's going to be doing that one? Is that you, Julie?
Yeah, I could share about that. So right now we're working on a 319 watershed plan for Lake County. And Angela, did you already display the website in the last meeting? Do you want me to go ahead and share that on my screen?
You're on mute, Angela.
I'm on mute. Okay. Yeah, if you wanted to share it, I'll stop share mine. And then if the group wanted to watch the video, it is only 1:30, so it's not a huge commitment, but it is an outreach tool that we would like to be shared, and kind of summarizes the project.
The video on the website has it been condensed a little bit?
Last time I watched it, it was 1:30, or maybe. Nope, actually I'm wrong. It was more than 1:30.
I'll just do a kind of a high level overview of what's on the website.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so this is our public outreach website. And I think actually before I dive a little deeper into that, I want to talk about the outline for the report because the information that's in the report is repeated again on the website. There was an outline attached to the agenda for today, and that is an older version of the outline. This is the February 15th version. And can everyone see my screen right now with the outline?
Yes.
Okay, so in the 319 watershed plan, we broke up non-point source pollution into several different categories. And the plan contains a long-term plan and an immediate capital project for each of the categories. And the 319 watershed plan is in the grant requirements, it must include areas that are outside of MS4 boundaries. But it sounds like there is some potential to include some projects that are within MS4 to a limited extent based on some funds that were made available from the cities that contributed. But the grant itself is written specifically for outside of MS4. So the categories are wetland and vegetative filtration loss, hydromodification and sediment transport, roadway runoff, and septage and runoff. And I think this hits on some of the points that the council member brought up earlier, where we're looking a little bit closer at septic, the impacts from failing septic systems and the nutrient contribution that may have to Clear Lake, and breaking up some of the larger areas into chunks and talking about what could this look like down the road with some municipal sewer upgrades or other improvements to the on-site septic system. So just at a very, very high level, and initial capital projects. And then we also have an attachment to this plan is a stormwater resources plan. And this is focused more on using stormwater as a resource, which has a little bit of a vague interpretation of this. It's really focused on being able to capture and reuse stormwater, but there also is a water quality component. So there's some potential here to include some projects that may be within the MS4 boundaries that we can't include in the 319 plan because there's crossover between the categories. And so all this information is the different categories that are included in the 319 watershed plan are on the website. So there's some general information, and then this video, Angela and I recorded, walks through the project in more detail. And these are the categories, and there's more information about those if you click on the category, and then you can tab through. And then at the end of the website is this community engagement form, and members of the public have been completing this form. And when it's completed, it goes to the Water Resources Department as a PDF. And the input from the public is being included as part of the 319 report. This call, we're calling it a call for projects. It's a call for input on capital project selection, and it will be open until close to the end of this month. And that's all I have to go over.
Thanks, Julia. I did want to emphasize that the stormwater resources plan, that it's kind of like an extra attachment to this, is going to be really valuable for when we get the potential for water bond funding. So you know how there was Prop 50, Prop 84, Prop 1, and now there's going to be another prop that's going to go before the voters next November that's going to provide additional water bond funding. There actually is a assembly bill in the state of California that makes it a requirement for jurisdictions to have a stormwater resources plan. in order to be eligible for bond funding. Lake County is one of the only counties that does not have a stormwater resources plan. We were not really eligible for Prop 1 funding because we didn't get those funds for that plan. It was 2015. It was the Valley Fire. We had a lot of other stuff going on. We weren't able to get that plan in place that year. So we weren't eligible for Prop 1 funds for stormwater projects. So this plan, getting this resources plan done will make sure that we're eligible for those water bond fundings that are coming up next. And if you recall from the last water bonds, there's millions and millions of dollars available that could be significant stormwater improvements. We can connect septic systems to municipal lines with that funding. We can do major septic replacement overhauls in areas that are impacting groundwater. So this is major buckage that we don't want to lose out on, that we need this plan in place.
Yes, that's great. So can I ask how many people are actually going on that website, filling out that form? Do you have a count of how many people are actually doing that?
Yeah, I do have a report. I just did a progress report on that. So give me 30 seconds and I can give you the, at least what it was like a week ago of what those
because that's one thing I think we need to really promote, to make sure that people go on that site and fill that out so that we can get those counts, because I'm sure that's just helps for the grants and stuff. So
yeah, and if you guys are in any meetings or discussions and someone talks about something that they need to retrofit something like green infrastructure or put in some swales in a parking lot or fix a culvert, like all of that could be included, and they should fill out the survey so it can get in the plan, so there could be funding for it come time for the water bond, or also the 319 implementation funds, which once we have this plan, those 319 implementation funds, you could then apply for any project going into the future if it's in the plan or similar to a project that's in the plan. So that means basically endless implementation funds when the funds are there. So the website summary statistics had 216 views over the past 45 days. So that was a date range of February 6th to April 3rd, which an average of 4.8 views a day. And there's been at least 7 survey submissions for potential projects. And I know we have Betsy Kahn on the line, and she did submit a project that was brought up at the last meeting. So thank you, Betsy, for doing that. And then there was definitely projects that were included or discussed as part of the trails plan, though the county and the Lake County Trails Master Plan had a bunch of areas and parks where they wanted to improve like vegetative swales for capturing stormwater, prevent flooding in parking lots and recreation areas like that. And all of those things are stormwater related. And so I suggested they put it in the project. So that was definitely one of the projects that was submitted after one of those steering committees for that.
Great, that's great. Well, that's better than what I thought it was going to be. So, so that's good. I always like to be surprised on those things. Okay, so is that all for the 319? Is there anything else we talk about? Anybody have any questions on that? No? Okay. Okay, we'll go on to the D, the stormwater program sustainability.
So that 2 items, I'm transitioning some of this program over to Linda. So thank you, Linda. And she is managing now the Blue Ribbon Committee grants for illicit discharge, spill response planning, and the trash grant and the trash project or the trash program for Lake County. So thanks, Linda, for taking that over. I'm still going to be involved in this program a bit because it's way more than one person can handle. So we're splitting that up, at least on the county side. And then we're consistently looking for more funding and to support the whole clean water program for that work. And then we don't have a new water resource department director yet, but when that person is selected, this will be one of the things that they will be looking at is program sustainability, as we had before with Deputy Director Marina Delajanis.
Right. The water there. Goodness. Okay, so this is the monitoring update.
We completed all the monitoring. You guys, we have the Lake County was doing monitoring with an agreement between Lakeport and Clear Lake. And we collect the data and then summarize it and report, which we'll be submitting to you guys the draft around June 1st. So that gives you a month if you have any reviews or anything needs to be fixed before June 30th, which is the end of the reporting or the end of the stormwater year. So the reporting for SMARTS that's due in October covers up until June 30th. So we want to make sure that if there's anything that needs to be fixed or addressed on the reports for that monitoring, will be you'll have some time to do that. We did miss a big storm event that was February 1st between lack of staff, and we also were monitoring for floods. So as the flood protection district, our priority is monitoring for floods, and all water quality takes a backseat to that. And so we had staff that were actually out looking at floods, so we couldn't prioritize that event. So we missed that one, but we did, however, complete 5 events. And if you guys remember from the agreement, we budget and we plan for at least 7 events. And so we had 5 events this year that we monitored. Is there any questions for that one? And the next item, which is Supervisor Sabatier's favorite, is the pyrethroid update. So this was a state order. The pyrethroid monitoring requirements weren't part of our permit, but they were added on as an order to identify what impacts that basically household herbicide or household pesticides are having on aquatic environments. And so we completed the last sampling for that, which is great. And then we put together the draft report, which was attached to this the package. I will let you know that I didn't attach the appendices. Did I attach it? It's a huge report. The whole thing's like 165 because a lot of it is actually the raw lab reports and the raw data.
You
But
did attach it.
You did.
I did? Okay.
Yeah. 138 pages or something like that.
I think I only printed out the hard copies. I only printed out I didn't print out the appendices for you guys for the hard copies. But I attached it to the digital one. So, but there is a summary table in there that shows the results from the pyrethroids. And so I can go through that now, or if there's any questions from people that reviewed the report, I can share the report on my screen for the exceedances.
Well, it's a long report, so if you're gonna do a little breakdown quickly, then, maybe that just make sure that we.
Yeah, so, well, what we did see was the recurring, there's several ways that they wanted us to monitor pyrethroid. So these are some general common household pesticide products. And we don't endorse or not endorse any products and brand names, but these are the ones that have some, the active ingredient, which is this bifenthrin. Go back. Okay. So bifenthrin is one of the active ingredients. That's in one of the 5 pyrethroid or products or active ingredients that we were to monitor for, that was analyzed in our samples. And this was the one that came out that had detectable limits for several of the monitoring events, but not at every site. And it wasn't the same site every time. So what this means is that, yes, there are some households that are using these products and there's some runoff at some point in the periods when we sampled. I don't know if this is enough for the State Water Board to tell us that you guys have to implement a whole pyrethroid monitoring plan and management plan and do a bunch of education. We don't know what it is that they want. We didn't see it a whole lot pop up. It popped up in Clear Lake and Lakeport in January of 2023, and it was all lower than 1 nanogram per liter. And it popped up in Clear Lake in May 2023. Again, less than 1 nanogram per liter. And then it popped up in the first flush in January 2024 in Clear Lake. and in Lakeport. And I believe, do we have one in Nice? Also in Nice in last year in May. And again, they were all less than 1 nanogram per liter. It did 2 of those, I believe, were not in the trigger or the trigger level, so they didn't exceed what the state water board said was of a concerning value, but they were detected. And a couple of them were above that trigger level. And then the other test that they do is that we run, so this is just from the water samples, the pyrethroid, is this little guy here is a little insect, and you guys can see us collecting these jars of sediment here at the bottom. And so what they do is we collect the jars of sediment and water, and they put them in a little aquarium with some of these critters and see how many die. And if you get more than 20% death, then that's considered an impact from this herbicide. And so there's amount of herbicide of pyrethroid that's pesticide, not herbicide, sorry, of pyrethroid that's of concern level. So that's called a toxicity test. So is there toxicity enough in that is causing enough death to these critters in the lab analysis? And we didn't have any toxicity pop up except for one time in where's my one time? In Clear Lake of January 2024. So that was the only time, and it was just with the water. So the sediment from the same site had like 83% of them survived. And so it didn't meet the trigger. It just the water sample caused 40% death of that toxicity. So there was some toxicity in the water. So that's it. All the rest of the toxicity from all the sites during all the events came out fine. And there wasn't more than 20% mortality. So I'm not exactly sure what the water board will take from that, if they're going to require us to do a management plan for our pyrethroids, or if they're going to pick certain jurisdictions that have to do that and not the whole county-wide. So are there any questions on that? I hope that made sense. Again, this is the one that popped out the most often within our sampling, was this product here, or these products here. And I did a search for bifenthrin, household bifenthrin pesticides, and it's really hard to find a product that's the active ingredient. These are literally the only ones.
Good. Well, that's good. Supervisor Sabatier has a question.
Yeah, so what's your control for those insects, species, whatever it is that you're subjecting to possible death? What's the control mechanism where you put them in a safe environment, 100% survives? Do they have a short lifespan? So we're literally looking at the impact of this chemical as a 17% die-off. So my question to that is, obviously this is not just in the lake, this is in the stormwater, but that would mean it's similar probably in our creeks that are nearby. Am I correct in making that assumption?
So this is to target urban stormwater for pyrethroid. This is not for creeks that are outside of the MS4 areas. Those might have a whole different pyrethroid or pyrethrin, because that would be like large scale ag runoff, and they might use different types of pyrethroids or not. And that would be on the irrigated lands project. So that would be Farm Bureau is monitoring that. So,
and I appreciate the clarification, but I'll still move on with my question.
Okay.
The fact that you're finding so much means it could potentially go through an urbanized community, end up in the creek, because creeks go through our communities. What would that impact be to like hitch eggs?
Yeah, we don't know what that is. Hitch eggs are probably dealing with a lot of cumulative impacts of things that are running into the stream. The reason why they pick this specific organism is because they know that it's sensitive to pyrethroid. So it's kind of like an indicator organism. Other organisms or other species aren't necessarily an indicator, and so they might not result in the same predicted pattern underneath certain amounts of pyrethroid. But the answer to the hitch eggs, we have no idea. That is actually something that the hitch task force has talked about. That's been a question, is the stage between spawning and when they're adults in the lake. We have no idea about what's going on and what's impacting them, whether it's eggs, juveniles, or basically fingerlings.
And maybe I'm completely out in left field today in the conversation, since obviously I'm in the creeks and I shouldn't be in the creeks. But I'm thinking like DDT, it didn't kill the birds, it killed the eggs or impacted the eggs. And so just looking at the more fragile state of that whole lifespan for that species, and just kind of curious, those chemicals aren't just in one place, they're in multiple places, and trying to see what the impact is. So I'm done. And actually, one more question. Yes, this is stormwater. What is our water districts doing to ensure that, I mean, it hits the Greater Lakes, so obviously it gets really diluted. But what is the potential impact to those water companies that are right next to where the runoff is coming in and drafting from the lake?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure. What I can tell you is that pyrethroids aren't something that can be filtered out really with water treatments.
Do they test for
Pretty
it?
sure. I don't know. We did put together the source water assessment, and with Cal Rural Water Association, they went to every single water purveyor and took all their data, broke it out seasonally. And so what they monitor for, and usually what they monitor for, if it's a state requirement, parameter they have to monitor, or they monitor for things that impact their treatment. So the amount of, solids, carbons, ammonia, things like that, that makes them have to alter their treatment. I don't know if they monitor for permethrins and pyrethroids. I know when we were setting up this program and we asked the water board, like, do lake samples count? What they really only wanted to see was from urban runoff right before it got to the lake, for these sites. So that's a good question. Does anybody know the drinking water monitors for herbicides and pesticides? I know they monitor for herbicides when there's a treatment going on. So whenever we have a county treatment in the lake, we let them know, and then some of them go ahead and do monitoring for that, and some of them don't, just to make sure that it's not impacting their water intake. But I don't know if pyrethroids are measured.
I've never heard of a water company doing that, but it's a good question.
I will tell you, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Remember, we made the reimbursement agreement for this for only 4 events. The cities each had 1 site and we had 2 sites, and it was significant dollars. So the county was like 50 grand for this whole monitoring program. And so the cities each were like 25 grand. So it's very expensive. So unless they're being told they have to monitor for it from the state, it's something that's probably not being monitored, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions on this? Any hand raised on the, Angela, on the Zoom?
Not that I see. And nope.
Okay, and then do we need to take action on approving the draft?
Yes, that's something that the group can do today. We did ask the water board for an extension. It was due last week, but I wanted to make sure that we had talked about it in the meeting. If there's any questions or any additions or changes that needed to be made before we submitted it. So or if we need more time to review it or anything, and we want to ask for another extension. And I did get permission from the water board to submit it to SMARTS from the county, and that would be sufficient for representing the submission from the city of Lakeport and city of Clear Lake. So saving you guys the hassle from dealing with the SMARTS because it's annoying.
Sure, our staff will love you for that. So, right there. So, okay, so do you guys feel like that you know enough about this to go ahead and approve this today?
I am not going to question the data that has been collected, because it's awesome to have it, but I have no
Well, unless you sit with all these paperwork that
Yeah,
has
yeah,
all these acronyms on it to try to read what all of this stuff is really hard.
I'm happy that we're doing this. This has been a long time coming. I'm glad that we got the approval for the contract, and I'm glad that we're collecting this, and now we have data. So happy to move to approve the monitoring report as submitted.
Do I have a second? I guess I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Who's the official members on this?
Right, that's fine. I know, I am.
I'm an official member, but I don't think I can vote via Zoom.
Unless you cough for us, then we can say yes. You're
Brandon, yes, you can vote today because the quorum is in person, is met. So,
Okay,
yeah, so you and me, we can both vote, as long as the quorum was met in person, which it is in the city of Clear Lake.
got it. Thank you.
Kylie, your voting, I believe, is to Addie today. Okay.
Yeah, because you're here and she's not,
So we have a motion and a second.
so do we need roll call or?
Yeah.
So let's take roll call. So, okay, Joyce for the city of Clear Lake, well, no, I guess it would be you, Addie. Well, I guess it'd be better. Is there anybody opposed? No, so motion carries. It's easier to do it that way.
Okay, 7-0 in favor. Thank you.
Okay. That's easy, huh, Addie? Blue Ribbon Committee, grant update. So, who's that? You too, Angela? Angela, you should just run this meeting.
No, this is helping a lot. Thank you. I feel like I talked too much already. So thank you, Joyce. You're doing a great job. This is a quick update. This is our grant from the Blue Ribbon Committee. It's for illicit discharge elimination planning. We have the RFP completed. It's out. It closes April 26th. We also have a addendum question that'll be added, I believe, like a week before. And I've only had one company send me one question. So that's what we're looking at. And then depending on how many we get submitted, review, and we'll probably have a start date around July 2024, which would align nicely with the new fiscal year. I did want to point out again the budget here and the tasks. There was a lot of money put in for this item, way more than I think it needed. So I'm trying to check off some other things that are needed for this group with some of those funds, because it was a planning grant. And so these are all the tasks that are up here. The illicit discharge guidance plan, again, multi-jurisdictional and multi-department. So multiple departments and jurisdictions will be working together to make that plan. That's a permit requirement. Also putting together these spill response cheat sheets. And if we wanted something like that for the wastewater treatments and we wanted this grant to cover it, that's something we could ask for, you know, so we know exactly what's going on when there is a spill from a municipal wastewater system, what the process is for reporting and how they mitigate it and let people know in their outreach and all that.
Right.
There's also funds in there to help the consultant bring these items to planning commissions, councils, boards for review approval, that public comment period and official approval. And then there's some stormwater ordinance updates that really need to be done for the, I know that the county and both cities, there might be some things that need to be updated. And hopefully all this aligns with the new permit, because it would be really awful if we update all this and then the new permit comes out, we have to change it all again. So I'm really hoping the new permit comes out so we don't have, you know, we can use these funds and make it useful. And then there is some funds in there to start work on updating the stormwater management plan. The last one we had expired in 2008 with the permit that was valid before the one we're in now. And then you guys can see there's some municipal associated tasks, and this is all related to clean water program, like work group facilitation, helping facilitate any of these meetings, or materials or trainings that are needed for clean water program, all the jurisdictions.
And could some of that money be used, like, I remember what, you know, we used to do the kind of classes down here at the lake where people can come and actually see how everything is tested. Could some of this money be used for that again?
Yeah, so we have outreach events and training materials for program staff and the public as needed to supplement the grant deliverables. And because this grant was approved by Blue Ribbon Committee, they love outreach and public involvement. And also public involvement is one of our requirements for our stormwater permit. So it'll check many boxes and seems like a fun activity to do. It's just one of those things that takes a lot more time and planning than all of us staff have ability to do. So it would be really nice to ask the consultant to put together something like that. And then we could just show up when that event is and kind of put it on. That seems reasonable and like a great idea.
That was a great event. A lot of people got educated from it. I heard about it for a long time after we did that down there, and it was fun. The kids got involved, the parents got involved, and it was kind of nice. So I would hope that we could do that again. So Mr. Sabatier, you have this?
Yeah, a quick question. The stormwater management plan, once that's updated, that's what would give us access to Prop 1 funds?
Not really. I'm sorry, it's so confusing. So our permit, the MS4 permit, requires us to have a plan for the municipal MS4 areas. Literally, it outlines like how often do we meet for clean water meeting? How much are our work groups meet? How are we complying with all of the points of the permit? The stormwater resources plan, which is countywide, whether you're an MS4 or not MS4, and for everybody in the county, including state areas, private, all of that resource plan is what makes us eligible for Prop 1 funding. We can combine the plans, so it's one big plan. I'm just don't know how the timing would work. But that is definitely something we could do. But it might not work out with the timing. But unfortunately,
What is our current activity in updating the stormwater resource plan?
what is our current activity with the stormwater
What's
resources?
our current status with it to get it updated so that we meet state guidelines to be able to access more funds?
Yeah, the stormwater resources plan, we don't have one at all. So we're making one. And that one, the state provided like a template of like what needs to be in it. And same thing, the stormwater, like the stormwater permit management plan, which is for us for the clean water program, has another set of things that we have to do. And unfortunately, they didn't talk to each other and make them kind of same or make the requirements the same. I don't.
So wouldn't the stormwater resource plan give us funds for the clean water activities that we do?
Yeah, you're saying through the stormwater resources plan makes us eligible for water bond funding, which then allows us to do the clean water program activities.
Yeah.
That is correct. The water bond funding is really important because the amount of money you can get can be like, $4 million to literally retrofit a parking lot, to have green infrastructure, make a bigger swale and replace the culverts, if there's localized flooding, or put in rain garden to filter out the parking lots, of like a big, huge project like that. Some of the funds that the 319 plan would open up might cap out at like 700,000 or $1 million. They're smaller, but they could do like add a vegetative swale or start an outreach program with and do some monitoring, repair a culvert and a road area, stormproof some roads, put in some pavement on a road that's now dirt or gravel, things like that. I hope that.
The reason I'm asking about it is just to see what is our best direct route to more funds to get more accomplished, and trying to figure out if any of these funds or any other funds that we have through the Clean Water Act currently can be utilized to leverage and get more funds. Just trying to figure out what's our direct line, what's our process and potential timeline to get there, because I'd hate to come back 2 years down the road and still not be able to access it because we haven't placed resources into it. It would actually really be great if the Blue Ribbon Committee provided us funding or helped support getting the funding to get that plan done, because then again, that plan opens up so many more doors to getting more things accomplished that the BRC is looking to accomplish themselves.
Yeah, and when you say direct and then stormwater in the same sentence, it really doesn't. It's like, it's really, stormwater and more like convoluted and ambiguous and difficult are kind of more the synonyms. But I agree with you. The Blue Ribbon Committee is so far behind right now in their funding because of the state budget that we can't expect any money from them anytime soon. But what we can do is maximize the funding we have. And if this group wants to change one of these items, we can ask for an amendment. We haven't spent this yet. If we want to put some of these indirect charges here, these 3.5 or some of this miscellaneous tasks, if we want to put some of that towards completing more of the stormwater resources plan, that's something that this group can decide to do. Because
At this moment, I don't know enough to say change it. But I'm trying to figure out what is the actual cost of getting the resource plan done in the first place. Because I don't want to take away from, this was put together obviously with a very specific purpose to fulfill. I don't know enough. I'm asking a whole bunch of questions that are either worthy of being asked or not worthy of being asked, just to educate myself a little bit more. But it seems to me like whether it's through here or through the county, that we really need to focus on getting that resource plan done, just because it helps out so much more than just the county. It helps out everything else.
yeah, okay, I hear you. I agree. And that was my, the cities actually agreed to put in some money. I think the cities agreed for like $5,000 each, and then the county's putting in 20 grand for Julia and MC Engineering and Cal Rural Water to do the stormwater resources plan. And we have a contract with them to make that plan. They're going to do the 319, some of the research that the grant pays for 319, how the watershed works, where stuff flows. A lot of that will be useful for developing the stormwater resources plan. But they've already looked at the requirements for that plan and said, yes, that's something we can do. And this committee, we can ask for those check-ins and ask for more involvement on that. So we understand exactly what's involved in making sure that plan's on track. But I really wanted that plan done. And I made sure that when we got the 319 funds and a contractor for that we leveraged that momentum, and then contribution from the cities and county stormwater cannabis funds to make that plan happen, so we wouldn't miss out on those water bond funds coming up. So I'm on it, but I want to make sure that you guys, I'm being transparent and you guys know how I'm on it. So I can put something together for the next meeting if you would like, specifically on the resource plan, and we can ask our consultants to help us do that.
Whenever there's a good time for them to give us an update, I don't want an update if there's not much to provide, but yes, thank you for all the information.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? No, okay. Okay, so adopting a drain program description and grant purchase information. So that's another presentation. Is that also by you?
Not me, it's
Okay.
Linda.
Okay, Linda, that was your
Yay,
turn.
somebody else.
We can see her.
I just do the fun stuff right
Yeah,
now.
there you
I think
go.
they're kind of easing me into what I got.
That's good. That's, hey, that's
And
good.
so they're like, let's give her an easy program to do. And so the Adopt a Drain program is a program that is, so Hamlin University is the people who we are working with to do this. And they have over 200 people that, take part in this program. This program will allow the community to engage with us, actually, and do some of our work for us, if anything. So they let people adopt a drain, you get to name your drain, call it whatever you want. They do all the reporting. So they will have their own login to Hamlin College. They will set this all up. It's really awesome because really we have the cities and really not anything to do but look in and make sure it's being done. They do all of the outreach. They do all of the see, I just want to make sure I'm not missing it. Yeah, Hamlin. It's like, so it's not anything that takes away from staff, from county staff, city staff. So they will set up the program. They will manage and implement the program. They will set up, so like say you wanted to adopt a drain, they would work directly with you to give you a login and teach you how to adopt your drain. And then you get these safety things that tells you the do's and the don'ts.
They tell you how to monitor
They
it.
tell you how to do it. Don't remove the grates. They're super safe about it. Yeah, there's more coming on this way.
Okay. Well, she always, it was always like ends here. So question is do we have a place where all the drains are that we can put out to the community of these drains are up for adoption? Okay.
We are giving that to Hamlin College. And say you have a drain near your house that is not on the map, you can drop a pin in and say, this is the drain I want to take care of, and they will just get added to the map.
Okay.
And so it's a living kind of program. We can add to it, we can take away from it. The wonderful part is that the people who are cleaning the drains will do the reporting. They will use a 5-gallon bucket and they'll ask, you know, hey, how much animal feces did you remove, brown leaves, green leaves, sediment? And they do the conversions for us from gallons to pounds. And then all that gets uploaded into their database. And we just go in and we can look at who's doing what, what's happening. They also will say you haven't logged in for a year. They will contact you and be like, hey, is this something you still want to do?
Yeah.
You know, we have storms coming up. Is this, you know, are you guys still into this type thing? So when you adopt a drain, they will send you a welcome package. They will even give you something that you can put in your yard and say, hey, yep, the yard state saying, hey, I am adopting this drain. This is how I'm doing my part to their water.
Don't mess with my drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm understanding is they don't lift the grates though. They just clean the tops of it off. So then who goes down and, I know I'm looking at this. So who goes down and cleans? Who goes down and cleans the actual drainage? Is that done by the cities and the counties?
That is done by the city.
So if a
Yeah.
person who adopts the drain sees it starting to get clogged up, they would notify the city to let them know that it needs to be lifted and cleaned inside?
From inside, they only do the surface.
Right.
And so, yeah, if they see that their drains are getting, maybe clogged up or filled up, yeah, I would advise them to call Public Works for cities or counties.
I would just hope that that's in the information that, you know, people, when it goes out, I mean, they say don't do it, but it should be in the information of whatever location they're at, that they have a phone number to call to say, you know, just, so I think they should have a phone number, and make sure that they have a phone number in there to call for their area to make sure that they know who to notify, because, you know, most of the time it's underneath the, it gets clogged.
Yeah, and what's also awesome is now that we're going with OpenGov, we'll be unified countywide,
Right.
with city, like, or Clear Lake and county, so they could do the online complaint or the online.
Online
that way.
reports, I would think. So, yeah, so.
It would be easy, like just with the QR code.
Yeah,
on
super
the
easy,
sign or
right to
something.
the web pages, yeah, depending on the jurisdiction.
But I think they need to know to have a place to, that they're gonna report.
Yeah.
It just adds to the responsibility to keeping their drain, and that the city doesn't have to go out and check all the drains like they do now, you know?
Yeah. on
But
their
we know
regular-
that some of them are covered. They can say, oh, well, that person, we don't have to check that one. They're gonna notify us when it's.
Yeah, and
it's
then
clean.
with this also, the educational component is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Like for us to go to schools and
Mhm,
see,
yeah,
you know, if a classroom wants to adopt a drain, or try to have the outreach and then the educational side on that.
you know, we all know it. You gotta hit the younger kids because they're the ones we have to educate, because I said, I remember when the littering thing came up, I remember telling my mom and dad, don't throw that out the window, that's littering. So every kid, the kids are the ones that are gonna be on the parents to, oh, let's do this, especially if they have one right in front of their house.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so,
planting that seed while
yeah,
you're showing.
planting that seed, so.
So, yeah.
Making
I
it
know
fun.
We were looking into those things, looking at our budgets, things
Prizes.
like that. How many years can we make this program run for? We're looking at maybe 3-4 years, depending on how much we want to do for schools, because everything comes with a cost. So for even having them, I think we said we would put 40 hours to this program for them to do our outreach. You know, so they will do our Facebook posts, they will do all that for us. We are going to roll out this program at Kids in the Creek in Middletown. And hopefully by then we'll have all our, everything signed and approved. And so that'll be our first event where we start to push it out there and let the community know, hey, this is a possibility. You can adopt your drain, take care of it. And let us know. You have little control over this little spot.
Right, well, I think
With a
that's
big
just-
impact.
Yes.
I like this idea, you know, it's just going along with, I remember when we first started this, it was marking them with the fish and let people know that the water's going into our lake, because a lot of people didn't realize it was going into our lake. They thought a lot of it was going into just the sewer pipes and stuff. And then I realized a lot of these drains just drain off into the lake, so that part became very clear that it was a good educational part because people now know that. So, and it just takes so many years to get some of this stuff in place, because that's been, I can say almost 20 years. So, when that program's really started coming out. So every one of these programs that we can start at the school level, and get them to do that. But I think, maybe we can get together and think of some kind of a, if you guys do this on a regular basis, we'll probably get a pizza place to donate pizzas or something for a reward,
That'd be
So,
awesome.
yeah, so I'd love to help on that.
Some of
Yeah.
the plaques like you're talking
Yeah.
about, someone's like adopting a drain for 20 years.
Yeah.
That you're committing to that, like to have
Yeah, well, it
in-ground
doesn't
plaque.
cost that much to have those done, but
Just a
yeah.
little incentive, like, hey, you're doing a good
This
job.
is
thank
my
you, we
drain.
appreciate it.
Yeah, this is my drain, this is
Yeah.
named after me, right,
Yeah, and
So-
we're still looking at the, hey, can we make copies of this and, do it for all the classrooms, all the schools?
Right, right.
Because it is costly for one class.
Yeah, and so I know you were gonna look into how much it would be or if they would charge us for reproducing the educational material. Did they say anything yet?
It's,
The
the-
welcome packets were $17 each, so like, we, I think, ordered or going to
50.
order 50, which is still a lot, but there's a lot that comes to with the packet. But then to be able to reproduce that on our end.
All right, so if we have a classroom that does it, are you talking like each individual child getting a packet to do, or the classroom itself's gonna adopt that?
Yeah.
So that would be, they get one packet for that classroom.
And then whatever residents or commercial locations wanting to
Right.
adopt one would get a packet,
Yeah.
is what I'm assuming.
Yep, as soon as you sign up for your drain, you get this welcome packet with all this
Stuff.
glorious information and your little sign.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I would like to do it with the schools. I think it's something to look maybe in a year or so, because we are so close to the end of school.
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
would give us time to actually put something in place and see if we can reproduce their
material.
materials.
Yeah, I'm curious on that, or if it's
Yeah.
like,
this is
Their
ours.
rights.
Yeah, this is ours. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is ours. Yeah, so, yeah.
And so, yeah, and then
I'd be
they do our
curious.
MS4 permitting, they give us a year, the whole year report. And so
helps
between
with
the
the
county and the
charge part.
cities, yep, we'll just divvy that out and see where goes what, and it'll help with our MS4 reporting.
So I think the best age groups normally for these kind of programs are like third and fourth graders. You start getting in the fifth and sixth, they're kind of already getting to the pre-teens or two. And the younger ones don't have quite enough knowledge. And so the third and fourth graders, when I've done programs, that seems to always be the best group to do these type of things. They're more into experimenting and seeing what's out there and stuff like that. So, yeah, so I think that that's great. So, thank you guys. I think this is an awesome program. And so does anybody have any questions on this? Ms. Mr. Sabaki?
Was there a
If-
hand up? Brandon, did you have a hand up? No? Okay. Just
No?
didn't want to miss it. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I know on the drains, I love how there's a fish. Typically, if we happen to find a drain or somebody adopts one, do we still have that available to add to our drains? Just because I think it's a good marker to kind of identify this is where the water is going. Obviously, that's why it's there.
Right.
It wasn't by chance that somebody decided to put a fish.
Yeah.
But if we do find a drain that doesn't have that, can we call and get that added on? Because I think it just helps the whole idea
Right.
of what's being done.
Just supports it, yeah.
Yeah,
Angela?
marking the drainage.
Yeah, we got those from a Fish and Wildlife Advisory Committee grant in 2019. We can definitely order more. I think we got ones that were like had a fish, there's ones that had a frog on it. And I think a bird one for ones around Upper Lake that were like water flows to wetland, things like that. So we can order several different kinds and then whoever's adopted the drain can choose which one they like. They were pretty affordable. I know we gave some to the city of Lakeport and Clear Lake also. So do you guys have any left, or did you want more, and how much would you need for your jurisdictions to give out to your folks? And I think if you just communicate what that is, and then Linda, we can look at that. I can show you that folder for that old grant and the source. And I believe we can purchase some of those without having to do any like price comparisons or anything. They're pretty
Angela, do you
affordable.
have any idea of what each one did cost? By chance?
Not off the top of my head, but let me grab the.
It's okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot on that. I'm just
You can always
curious.
get
And
back
then I'm
to it
like,
on
okay,
the
let
way.
me just survey and see how many we actually would need.
Nope, I got it.
The reason I bring it up is you said if you have a drain that's not on the list, that you can drop something on the GIS map to locate it, and I'm guessing if it's not on the list, it might not have gotten that special treatment like the others have.
Well, and I've seen some of them don't have them anymore. They're kind of like a, more off or worst way, or somebody's peeled them off or something, so.
They looked like that. There was other ones, and then this was the original quote. So we got like 250. There were 455 each, so a batch of 250, and then the round ones, yeah, so about 450 each. So for a couple thousand, we can see if we have funds in the Blue Ribbon Committee grant. I think we do, Linda. Because also maybe the illicit discharge outreach, because this is also, there's two options for both those grants. We could source some of these funds.
And I think if you want to get the schools involved, you need to have a competition of what they're gonna name the drain.
Right, name the drain.
Name the drain. I like it.
I like that. So yeah, because it's
And
always.
only $4.
Mine's already called brain,
The brain drain?
the brain
Oh,
drain.
gosh.
I think
Okay.
we have a lot of good.
I better get to work. On my
I'll also share that on their website, they have this really cool video. This was the video that was 1:30. And I have reached out to our county videographer to ask about animation. And we have a call to the Kelseyville Video Club too, to see if this is a project that they want to take on for this, or if they're interested at all. Because the video on their website was produced by a school group, a high school video group. So just want to let you know that a video like this would be good outreach for us. That's specific for like Clear Lake and Lake County.
Indeed.
So then we needed the approval on the presentation of the Clean Water Program and the National Adopt Drain Program. And utilize the BRC Trash Grant Fund to pay for it.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Who moved? Who moved? Who was that?
Bruno.
Okay. I'll second.
I know brain drain.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, and then the approval of adopted drain funding option for one agreement with district as the Lake County representative with cities conducting their own tracking reporting through the program.
So moved.
Have a second? Okay, got a second by Adeline. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Okay, so now we're going on to the biochar remediation experiment. So that's by Scotts Valley Pomo to the Watershed Protection District. Who's doing that presentation? I don't have it on here.
It's not a presentation. It's just an idea because we were donated 2 pallets of biochar. I don't know the form yet, but I know that was a discussion with this group in the past, and we've been asked to support, local production and use of it, but we don't really know how it'll work here. And we didn't get our hands on biochar before. So I was wondering if the group would be interested in setting up an experiment to kind of test some biochar in some of our municipal waterways. We can use the same sites we use for the pyrethroid monitoring. So the Lakeport site at Forbes Creek there, North Lakeport, we have a really easy access culvert there that flows right from the park and Upper Lake right into the lake. And then not North Lakeport, that's the knee site. The North Lakeport's also very accessible. And then Clear Lake at Bayless, those same sites. And what we would do would just kind of make the design proposal, a couple pages, couple slides of what that would look like and what we were testing for and what it might cost. And then how we install them once we kind of get our hands on the biochar and see what materials we have. And then we would place those and do some sampling upstream before the biochar and after during our normal stormwater sampling to see how it works and see if it's an effective method for removing nutrients and other things that we are monitoring. It might take a little, because we're doing some extra sampling, a little more money, but what we can do is augment some of our current reimbursement agreements that we have in place between the cities and the county, where we're doing some baseline stormwater monitoring already. And so just maybe be adding just a little bit to that, or we can see how much it is and just absorb it through some other funds. But that would all be a part of the proposal. So I just wanted to see if that item was interested, if we should even spend time looking at that. I can't guarantee it'll be ready for the next meeting, but we could try. Otherwise, the going into fall meeting, usually we have a meeting in like August, I think, that we can talk about this and look at the plan, the proposal. Before we invest and commit to a lot of biochar use, we want to see if it works. And then these are just some images that I picked out that show, like, we're not talking about a huge, large scale thing here. We're talking about, get some different types of bag types, set them up. Here's an outflow, a culvert with the biochar. So we would monitor basically the effluent, so above, and the influent and effluent, below, to see what changes are there with nutrients and things like that. Are there any questions? And anyone is welcome to build the biochar bags with us. We'd obviously let y'all know, and or the wattles or whatever it is that we want to use and we agree on doing. So this is all hands on deck can help or not. But
Oh, that sounds like a fun little, that we can have, lunch or something. So, okay, so we just want to see if this is going to help us with determining, if this is something that we want to use, correct? You just want to do a small project to test it.
yeah, I feel like this is something the Clean Water Program should do when we're looking, because then we know going forward if we want to invest in larger biochar with some of those water bund funds or other funds. And we're very familiar already with sampling at these locations because of the urban stormwater monitoring program and the pyrethroid monitoring. And so we could probably put something in place that would be relatively simple, but still give us some data around the lake.
And then Angela, as far as the absorbent goes with the biochar, how do you do a before and after? Is that something that we would learn through this tutorial or potential tutorial?
Yeah, so what I think we do is we sample the water like upstream of where the biochar is. So it's still capturing that urban influence, but without that filtration capacity of the biochar. And then we filter it downstream of the biochar, or we measure it upstream and downstream of the biochar. And we want to look particularly, are we removing phosphorus? Are we removing nitrates? Let's say, we do heavy metals at some of these sites. We can do some heavy metals and see if anything's, of less concentration. In some cases, biochar contributes more. There's certain things, the way that it's used, like in some of the studies I saw. So that's also something we want to know about. Like maybe sandbags aren't the way to go, but wattles are, like, so that might be something useful to know.
This might be the question, but as far as the photos go, are that the bags from the fire in Maui, or is that what they're doing there, or that's just not from Hawaii?
I don't think that was a fire. It looked like a biochar blog. But you can see they made a little check dam with some of these bags.
Yeah.
With the biochar. And so if we have a creek where, we put maybe alternate sandbags and biochar bags and create like a biochar, like half gravel, half biochar mixed up. We all know that sometimes we get really flashy high water events and there could be a lot of water there. So the last thing we want to do is have our biochar and our wattles and all the materials like flow out in the lake. We never see it again. We've contributed to stuff and our experience ruined. So that's part of the proposal, is figuring out, like, maybe some sites it won't work at all. And maybe some sites are set up that, depending on the technique. So that's what we need to figure out. If we agree as a group that we want to look towards biochar as interesting, as a potential method for filtration of nutrients.
For me, I say yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think since this is an experiment, we want to see if it's going to work. I think that we should do this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. Angela, I got a quick question on it. Is there any indication of how the biochar will filter out the bifenthrin, that whatever came up in the last sampling? Will this be effective in something that we already have come up in sampling?
Yeah, so I don't know. That's a great question. What we could do is, you know, I would say my first response is, oh, we could do not the toxicity testing because that's like thousands of dollars for the little insect guy, but
Yeah.
we could do the total pyrethrin, which was you know, the 5 different classes. We could do a couple of those. But that would be useful for the sites that we know we've seen some pyrethroid before. So because some of our samples we didn't see any, we didn't have any triggers. So you can't test, you know, oh, is it being effective if you don't have it there to remove? So I think that would be the trouble, is that we don't have any specific sites where we saw it every single time the methods. But what we could do is do a downstream measurement again of those and see, and just make sure we don't if we don't detect it. But if we do detect it, then we know, okay, the biochar bags didn't work because it's there, kind of thing. And that
Yeah,
would
well,
save us
I think
money,
as,
you know, but still maybe give us some information.
yeah, I mean, as an experimental type thing, there's almost nothing to lose, right? Except for some money and staff time. It's but it seems like if it does work on a much larger scale too, it's definitely worth it to start experimenting with it now.
Yeah.
Probably something I should know. How do you how do you, like, once the bottle or whatnot is used, how do you dispose of it? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the biochar would not be like a multi-season thing. So we would place it and it would be there for the wet season, and then we go remove it and just, you know, go to the discharge to the landfill. There is something where you can like reactivate the biochar, so like clean it, but I don't know if we want to go, you know, I don't know what that involves, because especially the experimental stage, we don't have a whole lot, and the effort of going through that might be more, but that's something we can look into in the proposal and see what do we do. But also biochar is, once it has all those nutrients in it, can be used as an amendment in ag. You know, if it's urban stormwater, there's actually going to be a lot of other things in there that, you know, we may not want to put down on vegetables, but that is something that's one of the selling points for biochar companies, is that they deliver the biochar materials to you to use, and then they collect them because then they can sell them for large scale ag, you know, soil amendments and nutrients in places like the Midwest, where soil is depleted of nutrients because it rains all the time and they have to spend so much money on fertilizers. So I don't know if they could be utilized somewhere else where it won't just run off and back into Clear Lake, but that's something we can look into through this experiment.
Yeah. Alright. So anybody else have any questions?
Depends how much bifefrin is filtered through there.
Well, it doesn't sound like we have a lot of that in our lake anyway, so we have a minimal of that, so okay, so let's.
So just a random thought, obviously I'm not a scientist and it needs to be developed by somebody with a science background, but the more data we have historically of whatever stream or creek or a waterway that we are going to implement this, I think the better. That way we have a historical idea of what the data already looked like from up above and down below. Because yes, we should see a difference with a filter, but was there already a natural filter that may have occurred that there would have already been that difference downstream? So I think doing it in a known area with the more data that we already have will help us better understand what the true impact of that experiment will be.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's the urban monitoring sites we have around the lake. We've been monitoring since 2021. So when we put these in place next year for the 2024-2025 season, we'll have, you know, those several years of data of the pre year. So I think that'll lend it to that that scheme. So yeah, that's a great point.
Is there anybody on the Zoom that has any questions, Angela?
I do not have any hands up. Is there anybody on Zoom? I don't have any chat items. No hands up on that.
I move to approve the development of biochar experiment design. I won't read the rest.
Second,
Who's second? Was that you,
Brandon.
Brandon?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Right. So, okay, so work group schedules and updates. So that would be you.
I do need to schedule the con and pecan. I haven't set a date yet, but that is to come.
Okay, okay. We got municipal good housekeeping.
Yeah, I haven't sent the invite out, but I am tentatively planning the next Muni meeting to be June 11th at 3 p.m. I'm gonna send out an invite next week, and then an agenda will be sent out at least a week before the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Outreach and public participation, Angela.
Those are the first Tuesdays of every month at 3 p.m. It's the same meeting room every time. So the next one is on April 7th. We do them by Zoom. We did have an item that was brought up at the last, I didn't take minutes, but I do remember this item at the last Clean Water Program meeting was the advertisement that went out as part of the outreach funds that came from a radio station that was like 101.5, which isn't one that's in our area. So we actually had those revamped and we added the geofencing. So it goes beyond social media. It goes out whenever anybody's scrolling on their phone for like news sites or anything else, it'll go out. And so these are kind of what they look like. You guys notice that it has the Clean Water Program logo on it now. Before it just had the Lake County logo. And so this is more accurate for the Blue Ribbon Committee funds that were granted and because of all the work this group's doing. And then it just has the Water Resources phone number and not public health, just so we can limit confusion and makes more space. And then the work group also approved and contributed to the Aquatic Resources Lake County Activities Blue Book Fund for all ages. So that is, I think, Linda, did you pass out copies of that? Oh, she kept it from you guys.
She was paying attention. Sorry.
I know. They'd be doing the crosswords and the coloring and not paying attention to the meeting. So good thinking.
These on my break. So.
Nice.
And then City of Lakeport, we got to get some down to you guys for your City Hall. So it's 12 pages, it's activities in there related to, you know, the water resources. There's a water conservation in there. There's a thing that talks about groundwater. There's a find a word, a crossword puzzle, and then some really awesome coloring pages of Clear Lake animals and Highland Springs that one of our Civic Spark interns did. And so this is a great outreach tool. We printed like 2,000 of them. So if you guys have an outreach event and you want to have some available, if your staff have kids, if you have a group coming in to learn something, let's distribute this. And we're just really excited. And thanks to the group for going through and reviewing the process. It took a long time. We finally got it. So yeah. And if there's any interest in adding pages later, we'll always do future printing. So we can always we have to add pages in groups of 4. So you can add another set of page that's front and back. So if there's anything specific that you or anybody in your jurisdiction wants to add, please do that. And that's a focus of the public education outreach work group.
Angela,
When you go do the drain thing at the schools, this would be a really
I'd
good
like
thing
to
to
have
take
some
with
of
you.
these.
This is awesome.
We're gonna
This
have
is
our
great.
Clear Lake cleanup day on April 27th. This would be a good time to hand these out and get
So
some.
how is that Bethany that asked that or Addie?
Addie.
Okay, so I think the stack that I sent you guys was for the city of Clear Lake, so that is all for you. I believe Kylie, you asked for a certain number. So
Yeah, I requested 100, but
oh, okay, I got that wrong. So I need to send more out to you. So I think I sent you like 25 or 30. So I'll send Linda, let's help remember to send let's just send another 100 to Clear Lake.
thanks, Angela.
And will that
I'm
be
sure that's
enough?
enough for the Clear Lake cleanup day though. So that should probably be fine.
Will that be enough for your event?
I think so. What do you think, Addie? Do you need more for that event or do you think that's enough?
Yeah, this is perfect.
That's probably for the kids.
Yeah.
One for me.
You asked me to leave the rest of them.
And then Brandon and Bethany, you guys can come get as many you need anytime, or if anybody has a meeting down there soon, we can bring some, but if, just let us know. And I'm tracking where they're going and how many are going out too, so we have those distribution stats.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so the next is Linda, right? Trash and IDD.
Is this something you wanted me to take care of, Angela?
Yeah, You kind of been doing it because you did the adopted drain meeting, so that counted as a trash meeting. And then I thought we could do the, when we get illicit discharge proposals, you know, after we do the county review as according to the bid process, if we have any questions or anything, we could use the illicit discharge work group as additional feedback for that. So that'll be the next meeting, which we don't have yet because we don't know how many proposals we have coming in. But that was what I was thinking for that, because we can't do any work on illicit discharge until, you know, we have an idea of how those funds and that program's going forward. So I think that's okay, and I don't think it breaks any rules on things. So I think that's it for the
Work groups.
group updates.
Okay. So our update meetings for 2024. So the next one is July 11th at the Lakeport City Hall.
I will not be able to make that. I'll make sure, well, I can't make sure, but I'll make sure to let EJ know that I won't be there. Whether he can make it or not, I don't know.
And okay, and then November 14th at the Lake County Courthouse. So
And Angela, I'm hoping I need to have the stormwater consultant have their final plan to us so that we can have them do a presentation.
And that is for the Clear Lake Drainage Plan update, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that was originally requested for this one, but this was a pretty full meeting, so it actually worked out that we didn't have it, so we'll plan for it to be the main main feature for the next meeting if that works out, and if there's any materials that wants to be part of the agenda packet, I'll reach out, and then a presentation would be great, much like Lakeport did their drainage design presentation last year.
Okay.
okay. All right, and then okay, so we're at the point of public comment period. So we have two public people in the on our Zoom. Does either one of them have any comments they'd like to add at this time?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Or mutes off. So, or chats, no. Okay, Danny says no public comment today. Thanks. Well, thank you, Danny, for attending. We appreciate it and being involved.
Yes, we do. Okay, so does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to this meeting before we adjourn? Nope. Okay, then I'll adjourn this meeting at 3:31. Okay, thanks, guys. As usual, you did an awesome job.
Thank you.
We have the best group.
She just put them in, this is my packet of.
Let's see what they are.